Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking reverse proxies, and we are comparing the three big homelab friendly options: Caddy, Nginx Proxy Manager, and Traefik. And we are doing it in a practical way. We will use the same test container for all three and will get a real Let's Encrypt certificate using HTTP 01 challenge. That means port 80 needs to be reachable from the internet. Let's jump in. A reverse proxy sits in front of your services and handles the front door stuff: HTTPS and certificates, routing so domains and paths go to the right service, optional authentication, allowlists and rate limiting, and logs and metrics depending on the proxy. So instead of the certificate warnings and random ports, you get trusted Let's Encrypt certificates and clean URLs per service. Clean, standard, and way easier to secure. Before we touch Docker, here's what you need for the setup in this video: a Linux host running Docker and Docker Compose, a domain name that resolves publicly to your WAN IP, port forwarding on your router or firewall with TCP port 80 to your proxy host, optionally port 443 for HTTPS access. If you don't want to expose port 443, that's fine, but you have to perform internal DNS resolution to your reverse proxy. And if your WAN IP changes, use DDNS, that's totally fine. Important note, we are using HTTP 01 for Let's Encrypt. That means Let's Encrypt must be able to hit your reverse proxy on port 80. If you cannot open ports, then you need DNS 01 challenge instead. Before we build anything, here is the quick pick this if guide. Pick Caddy if you want the simplest, it just works HTTPS. You like config in a file, you want minimal effort. Pick Nginx Proxy Manager if you want a GUI, you want to click routes and certificates into existence. You want easy host management in a dashboard. Pick Traefik if your services change often. You want routing via Docker labels. You want something that also scales toward Kubernetes later. And the best part is, you can test all three the same way. Let's build a baseline test service. You can find the guide with the settings linked in the description. We are going to run a tiny container called whoami. It is perfect for testing reverse proxies because it simply tells you what it receives. First, let's create a folder and change into it. Now create a shared Docker network called proxy. This is important because all our proxies and services will join the same network. Now create a compose file for whoami with the following settings. Start the container. Alright, baseline is up. Quick heads up. Only one reverse proxy can bind to ports 80 and 443 at the same time. So when you switch from Caddy to npm to Traefik, you stop the previous proxy first. Now let's do Caddy. Caddy is the I want HTTPS with minimal pain option. Can automatically request Let's Encrypt certs using HTTP 01 as long as port 80 is reachable. Create a compose file for Caddy with the following settings. Configure Caddy with a Caddy file. This is the whole vibe of Caddy, one clean config file. What we are doing is listen on whoami.yourdomain.com, reverse proxy to the whoami container. Automatically get Let's Encrypt certificate. Redirect HTTP to HTTPS. Then bring it up. Then give it a couple of seconds to grab the certificate and verify it by opening https whoami.yourdomain. You should see the whoami output. If it loads, Caddy is done. That is why people love Caddy. After that, we stop Caddy and move to Nginx Proxy Manager. Nginx Proxy Manager is for people who want a GUI and want to avoid writing config files. Start by creating the compose file. Bring up the container. Now open the admin UI under HTTP, your Docker host IP port 81. Important security reminder: do not expose this admin UI to the internet. After the initial user creation, we create a proxy host. Under hosts, click on proxy hosts and hit add proxy host. Under domain names, add whoami.yourdomain. Forward host name is whoami and port 80. Now go to the SSL tab. Set SSL certificate to request a new certificate. If you want, you also can enable Force SSL and HTTP2 support. Then hit save. After that's done, the window closes and the status should be online. You can now verify if it works the same way like in Caddy. And as you can see, we don't get a certificate warning. That is the NPM workflow. Very clicky, very approachable, great for a lot of home labs. Stop it before moving to Traefik. Now let's do Traefik. Traefik shines when you want this experience. Deploy container and the root appears automatically. This is especially nice when you run lots of Docker services and you do not want to manually update configs for every single one. Create a compose file. Traefik also needs a ACME JSON file. Create it and set the permissions. Then start Traefik. Now with Traefik, the magic is in labels. You attach labels to the service and Traefik discovers it and configures routing automatically. In the guide you have two options. Option A, you create a dedicated whoami compose just for Traefik. Option B, you update your existing whoami compose to add labels. Either way, the flow is the same. Then restart or start whoami. Then verify again. If it loads, your Traefik routing is working. Traefik also has a dashboard, but a very important warning. Do not expose the dashboard publicly. If you enable it, protect it. Traefik is extremely powerful, but it expects you to be more intentional about security. So which one should you use? Here's the honest homelab answer. If you want the fastest path to working HTTPS with a clean config, use Caddy. If you want a GUI and you do not want to think about config syntax, use Nginx Proxy Manager. If you want a dynamic setup where routes follow containers automatically, use Traefik. In a lot of labs, people start with npm, then move to Caddy or move to Traefik once they go full automation. There's no wrong choice. Pick the one that matches how you like to manage your lab. Quick security checklist. No matter which proxy you pick, do this stuff. Do not expose admin dashboards to the internet. Use multi-factor authentication if you expose anything sensitive. Use IP allowlists for admin endpoints. Keep your proxies updated. Log access somewhere if you can. And remember, HTTP/1 challenge requires port 80 reachable from the internet. If you cannot or do not want open port, switch to DNS/1 challenge. And that's the reverse proxy comparison. You now have the working baseline using Caddy, Nginx Proxy Manager and Traefik. All with the real Let's Encrypt certificates using HTTP/1. As always, the full written guide and all compose files are linked in the description. Let me know in the comments what you are using and why. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.